Okay, it's recording now. I think that the mic is gonna be, so I can turn it up. Testing. I'll turn it up a little bit.
You can't bring it over here?
I could move it closer if you want to just... testing 1, 2. I think that helps, yeah, moving it closer. I'm not gonna wear the headphones the whole time. Yeah, it's recording.
Alright.
Sorry for the ugly overhead lighting. Usually I try and record in the daytime so that I can use the natural lighting because I think it looks a lot better.
And then you speak until it becomes dark outside.
That did happen in the Pinocchio video. But we just watched... Our faces can't be in it, otherwise it's going to try and focus on our face. And it still may never focus on the disc. But anyways, we watched The Meaning of Life, which is a Monty Python movie. They did this in 1983, it looks like. Which is after they did
Holy Grail. Like 79 or something like that.
Which we saw the Monty Python and the Holy Grail at the Coolidge Corner Theater. Was that on film or was that digital? I don't remember.
I can't remember either, but that was my first, at least me personally, my first experience with any movies written or starring any of these people, and I thought it was such a hoot. I literally remember, one, just having an amazing time in the theater and walking out and being like, wow, I can't believe that, like, I've never seen this before, and that all of the comedy still hits, even being, you know, almost 50 years old. Like, it was very much a huge plus and fun experience for me, so I had high hopes for this one, which I shouldn't have had.
Well, yeah, I didn't like this one as much either. This was my first time watching The Meaning of Life, but when we had seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail at Coolidge Corner, it was my second time seeing the movie in full, second or third time. But I remember being, a young kid and watching clips of the movie on YouTube, specifically like the one with the fight scene with the Black Knight. And the clips, like, being taken out of context of the movie still being hilarious to me as a kid watching them on YouTube. And I feel like, but even, like, in the context of the movie, it worked even better to make, like, the unified whole that is the movie. And I feel like with The Meaning of Life, one of my complaints was that it felt disjointed, like the segments, between the bits, between the jokes. The transitions were very abrupt and very jarring at times, which in some instances seemed to be purposeful and actually landed like a joke or a meaning, but at other times just seemed to be not by nature of their writing and their editing. But I think... So it didn't really work that well, I think, together. Yeah. To make, like, something unified as well as Holy Grail did, or as well as it could have. But also, even, like, if you were to take these out of context and just look at them by themselves, I don't think that the bits were as funny either.
Yeah. There were definitely a few that I think you could pull out that, made sense. And I think one thing that I said to him right when we finished was that it was a movie that I got, like it landed, that what it was trying to do worked. Hey, Goose was asleep for most of it. Hey, Kiki.
Although he was up right by the TV watching the beginning.
He was slapping around and as kitty do. But it was trippy, kind of going, oh yeah, I get it. I get the satire. I think it's satirical. I think it lands. Maybe in just if you were to give me the, like, a single line of, oh, well, in this part, you know, they do conversations instead of meals at a restaurant, and they're like making jokes about philosophy and all this. Like, that would, I'd be like, oh, like, I get it. I get what the point of that is. I get how that's funny conceptually, all good, but there was just something like coming out of it. It kind of felt like a lot of I was giving a lot of things like awkward laughs, where it was just like, okay, I get it, like it's it works, but it's just not that funny, right, to me at least, you know. Or the things that I think that the humor was a lot different than what I was expecting, and maybe I think that could just be the biggest problem with it for me, was having such a like awesome experience watching Holy Grail and never really knowing that much about this like group of movies, and then just being like, oh, so it's amazing, all of the other ones must be as well, and kind of just like running with that. But like, yeah, just I didn't find the humor, it just wasn't as, it was a lot sillier, which I guess I just wasn't really feeling tonight.
Yeah, and I think I do want to go back and say that the movie does have a unification in its just like general meaning, which is critiquing, like it's called The Meaning of Life, but all it does is critique what other people seem to try to pursue as the meaning of life, mm-hmm. which you have talking about ones that, you know, just got kind of forced laughs out of you. The one in the French restaurant, mm-hmm. I found pretty uncomfortable, which obviously critiquing like consumption, mm-hmm. I think general consumption as finding your source of meaning in, mm-hmm. life.
I did like how that ended, or I guess it was the
ending was pretty crazy.
I
like the ending
with the
too.
Waiter.
Yeah, giving him the mint.
Oh, then... no. I mean, yeah, that, of course, him just like literally exploding. But
right.
I guess it was, I think it shifted into another
another
section where the waiter has him fall. And I liked that because
that was cool.
For whatever, I think maybe just because he was a waiter, but I was thinking about Start. I was
He was like, so I chose to be a waiter.
You play the role of the waiter. The waiter's just pretending to be a waiter and is an act, you know, so that was kind of funny, because I was like, you know, obviously, and I think that could be part of, I honestly think that could be a legitimate reference.
No, definitely.
But that, you know, he feels like he has this, he not got it figured out, but like has this sort of like, you know, simple, like soulful sense of what life is, and then the second he says it out loud, he realizes that that doesn't make any sense, and that he actually isn't fulfilled, and he actually didn't do, you know, what or whatever, and gets all upset and like runs away. So I did like that, and like that was funny to me, because that was just like, you know, yeah, the whole point of that section, I think, not just that you had the character who just threw up to continue to consume, but that the entire wait staff was like hustling and bustling around, making sure that everybody was happy, and like that is also a way that some people approach life, is I will cater to everybody else, and that will bring me fulfillment, and it absolutely does not. So,
right.
You know, again, like every point of it just being like, oh, I could definitely speak this back to you and say, this is what this was, and this is what this was, and it all, like, I agree with it. It makes sense. I think that, again, like, conceptually, it is funny. There was just something that, and I, like, you know, every time I, like, say something about this, I kind of feel like there's a little voice in my head going, well, that's the point. Like, it's stupid and silly and isn't, like, necessarily supposed to be comedic as much as it's, like, just so absurd that it's, like, uncomfortable, or, you know.
Or just it catches you off guard. This movie makes me feel like the trend that's online now of never let them know your next step. Yeah. Have you seen those videos?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, I could imagine, I guess, but
Like when he like when the guys were there taking the man's liver, and then the one leaves his partner to as he's cutting open the guy ripping his liver out to go talk to the wife in the kitchen, and then comes on to the wife with like a semi-proposal to marriage, and then opens the fridge and the guy comes out and starts singing, like that whole sequence, you know.
Never let him know your next move.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, yeah. And I think that it's funny because when we were talking about some of the other movies that Terry Gilliam has done, and he had named two. And again, like, I know that people's reviews aren't important, but he had named two that when I had looked up just on Letterboxd had not like they didn't have vastly different reviews, but there was one that a lot of people seemed to like and another that kind of didn't seem to land for a lot of people. And and he was just like, oh, like they just don't get it or something. But I think that there are probably like a million people out there that would say the same thing about us, about this one, where it's like, oh, you just like the absurdity was just like too much for you, or you didn't get it, or it's not like it didn't land for you, but it lands for me, and like whether one of us is right or not is, I don't know. So I think it's one of those situations now where like I'm kind of aware that there is a group of people that this just worked a lot better for, and the different type of comedy and just satirizing, I guess, just some people probably find it funnier or more or kind of relish the weirdness and the uncomfortability of it. And there's certainly movies that I do feel that way about, where it's like, oh, this is, this is so weird and I do feel uncomfortable, but like I love, like it totally works, and like I don't know why this isn't one of those. Well, but I'm sure that like in the way that I feel that way about some movies and other people seem to hate them, it's probably the same thing coming around with this, where I know that there's people that this works for, and I just don't think it was me. And I don't know if that's, again, I'm sure maybe about 60 to 70% of that is me coming out of Holy Grail going like, I want that type of silly comedy. And this was like a different type of silly. Because
it was it tried to be absurd, and it also tried to be silly at times, but it's also a serious topic, obviously. Like, this is what keeps people alive. Like, in a real sense, these things are what keep people from not killing themselves. Like Camus said, the question of suicide is the only really philosophical question. Because that's about, like, the meaning of life. Like, what keeps you moving and expending effort and striving for things. But and so they tried to take the absurdness and the silliness and apply it to this topic and just tear down all these things that and then they leave you with like a non-answer, really. I mean, I get what they were what they were going for at the end, but also with the absurdness, like I saw through it. Like the meaning was obviously there. Like every segment, it was obvious. Okay, now they're attacking the, only caring about money as the meaning of life. Now they're attacking, nationalism. Now they're attacking religion. Now they're attacking by the end of whatever.
The meaning on the card almost is the meaning that you were looking for. Like, maybe you could say that, and the way that, she just reads it off really fast and throws it away, it's like, yeah, there's no way that that's true, but like, it kind of is. It's like, oh yeah, be a good person and try to enjoy your life and all that stuff. Things. And like, and like that, you could almost just be like, oh, that's what it is. And so you would almost want there to not even be a non-answer, but just like nothing or all of it, or I don't know, like it felt like it did answer it, and then you're just like, okay, what was the point of, I guess, the rest of that? Like,
yeah, but it answered it with particulars. Like, if it would have given particulars in the sense that Wim Wenders gave particulars in the Invocation of the World, then it would have worked, because that is an invocation of life, with just like listing off particulars of life.
Yeah.
But it was literally a throwaway card.
Yeah.
And it just didn't have the same punch. And so to just tear down what people have traditionally and still very seriously take as the meaning of life, mm-hmm. and then give your substitute answer as literally a throwaway card, mm-hmm. in this absurd comedy film where, at least for myself and my own viewing of it, could see straight through the absurdness to what they were trying to say. Which the point about absurdity to me is that you don't get it. Maybe, it's a few hours after you leave the theater or whatever, mm-hmm. or a week later you're talking to somebody at work about it and, it hits you. Or, but like V by Thomas Pynchon, the novel, is an absurd novel, I think. It's very postmodern, it's very absurd, and I didn't glean my own meaning for that until, probably at least a week or two after I had finished reading it, and I had been just randomly asking people in conversation, like bringing it up, have you read this book, mm-hmm. V by Thomas Pynchon? Nobody else had read it, and I actually got my copy from a creative writing professor that had given it to me at the end of a semester, but then he was gone. I didn't read it until like the next semester or something, and so he was gone from the school at that point, and he was the only person I knew that would have maybe read it. So anyways, I couldn't find anybody, and then like a week or two of asking people, trying to find somebody to talk to about it, my professor, Dr. Gillen, who sounds really familiar to Gilliam, which is funny because he's also one of the only people I know who's seen Zero Theorem. But he had read it, and having a conversation with him about it was when I was finally able to be like, oh, okay, this is what I think the meaning of that book is. But that, like, I shouldn't be able to, as I'm watching, like, actively see through the absurdity. Then it's not really absurd. It's not really absurd.
But then in that sense, I think that maybe this is a bit more, like, I guess, I don't know, maybe absurd is...
No, I do think that's what they were trying.
Right. Yeah. I have two thoughts, I guess, in response to that. Like, I think you could probably argue that if you want to get semantic about it, like, it's more satirical than absurd, because it is this direct, I think, obvious, like, reverse of what, or obvious joking, which, like, is kind of the point of, like, satire and irony. But two, that even if it is meant to be literally absurd in the way that, these other novels or movies are that we could name, I don't know if, like, I mean, yeah, you're probably right that being able to see right through it immediately kind of defeats the purpose, but I also don't think that, like, and I know you're not saying this, but that, like, the best absurd film or novel is the one that, like, takes you so long to figure out, because... Or that, like, being able to pick it out, especially after, like, surrounding yourself with absurd media, if that's something you're interested in, you start to be able to pick things out, where I enter into Eraserhead knowing that there's things I'm gonna, like, have to think about beyond what I'm being shown. And so, and again, that part of it's, me, walking into a movie like that knowing what I'm about to see and that there's meaning behind it. But point being, I don't think that being able to pick it out means that they're, like, failing at doing the thing. It's just, I guess,
Well, yeah, because if their point is, like, saying the thing, then they are saying it, I guess. But...
I did, I can't remember, there's not, like, many songs in Holy Grail.
Or at least not as many as there are in this movie.
A lot of songs. Yeah. Which, again, like, I think it's so funny, because I think if I were to, like, word for word explain each point of this movie to somebody else, and just be like, well, in this part... this guy who has like 6 million kids, sings a song about why he's a Roman Catholic. And then it's like, oh, that's funny. Again, I think, like, on a script written out, these things are funny. Mm-hmm. But then just watching them, I was just like, I got kind of tired of it after a certain point. And I don't know if, like, yeah, again, if part of that could just be I am tired now, or, I mean, I feel like I actually kind of had, what did we just watch that I thought was, like, too long?
Oh, Prom Night?
Yeah, we were watching, yeah, right? Yes,
I mean,
it was Prom Night. To be fair, I have other issues with that, but I said something to him, and this was the last movie we watched, like, later at night at home, where I was just like, there were so many points where they could have just moved on, like, the scenes were so long, and he was like, I don't know if that's really, true, and so that could just be...
Like a 90-minute movie.
Right, it's a very short movie, and this is a very short movie, so, I don't know about very, but,
A little bit longer.
Maybe I'm just, like, my attention span's starting to wane a little bit, or it's just a little late, but, there were, like, some of those bits would kind of, at a certain point, I'd be like, okay, like...
No, definitely.
I got it. And I think that that's something that Holy Grail did pretty well, was, like, you got the joke, and it came back when it was appropriate, or it continued when it would stop right before, I think, at least, it got to be too much, or anybody was going, like, okay, I get it, like, let's move on,
Yeah. No,
I think
definitely.
there was a good sense of timing in that, and I don't know if again, could just be me right now, but don't know if I felt that here.
No, I agree. And with the timing, when you have, like, there's a sense where the novelty of the bit wears off, and if you're going for, like, the absurdity as well, that will wear off also. Mm-hmm. And the jarring way that they transition from one bit to another works, I think, a lot better when you do it before that, before the comedic effect or the absurdity, like, wears off, Like, people are still kind of reeling from what they just heard said, or what they just saw, or whatever, and then you cut and you go into the next bit, and it keeps the pace a lot better, and they still had, like, the jarring transitions here, but yeah, like you're saying, they weren't effective, because the bits just kind of ran on for longer than they should have.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, there were definitely places I thought that it like things that worked a little bit better for me. I think that, like, I think part of it too is what I would consider, like, and everything I'm saying, there's a voice behind it just going, like, okay, that's kind of the point, or that's, you're missing something here, or you're, like, yeah, I guess that whatever I could say about something is precisely the point. Like, I was thinking, I don't love, like, how many times can I throw up as, like, a form of comedy. I don't think that that's very funny, but that's the point, is that it's, like, ridiculous how much this man will eat and then, throw up again, and then he explodes and all the contents of his stomach go everywhere. And like, as a gag, I don't love that. But again, that's what's supposed to make you uncomfortable, is, like, this is, a metaphor for how much people will waste and then spend and then, lose and gain, and it's just another version of that. So, yeah, and I feel like at any point I could name a scene where I'd just be like, well, that comedy didn't work for me, but that's the point, or that's, that's where the absurdity or whatever would be coming in, is that I'm not supposed to find that funny,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is that they did themselves a disservice by picking a topic that I think doesn't fit well with the comedy. Like, you're right. They did make a good point about overconsumption and then wasting what you've consumed to then consume more, and just this cycle of consumption and waste and consumption and waste. But yeah, because and it's again for at least us, it was more or less obvious what they were saying in these instances, but
I don't think this
they
movie
were
would be
uncomfortable
enjoyable.
messages.
Right. I don't
So,
think it
which
would be
wasn't funny.
enjoyable at all if you didn't know or couldn't see that all of those points were, you know, satirizing how some people, like, if you were like,
Right,
who's this
but-
fat man in the restaurant anyways, and like just kind of like, even if you found the ridiculousness of him exploding or whatever funny, like, I just don't think you could enjoy the movie if you didn't understand. And I mean, it's the title. I think if you jump into it and they keep referencing, like, this is the meaning of life, this is the meaning of life, and
Right.
like, if you can't see that all of those instances are satirical, like, you're just missing like the movie. Like, so I don't know, but so it's like
No,
you have to
definitely,
read
but then
into
at that
it.
point, who's gonna find it funny?
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I do agree with you that I think that, like, yeah, overall content idea wise, definitely a harder one to hit. But I mean, and we haven't finished Hitchhikers, and I don't really know. It's obviously more of a,
Oh, that's funny though.
yeah, well, I mean, but we haven't, you know.
Uh-huh.
And then there's you know, it's a podcast and the movie and the book, you know, like there's a bunch of different elements to it, so it's kind of hard to like refer to it in any one sense. But like, even the 20 odd pages of the first book that we've read, it's, I don't know.
Also tackles the question of the meaning of life in a very comedic way.
Though book, you could definitely, like, you know, the book could be talking about how much this guy in the restaurant's throwing up, but how the visual of that, and like the visual gag of, like, you know, I can't really imagine that being written into a novel as
Right.
much as it. So,
And-
you know,
and
maybe
also-
it's easier for the humor to hit with the book because it has to be written well, and it's up to you to visualize and think about it. Whereas with, you know, a film, for example, you are, one, forced to just absorb it, and the timing and cuts, like, yeah, all of that stuff is
The pacing's not yours.
yes,
in a
yeah,
movie.
exactly. So, you know, but to at least to say that the subject of a comedic take on something very serious like the meaning of life exists
Right.
and can be done well, as far as we know.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's like impossible to do this.
And a difference I see is that this is just critical. Like, it takes its comedy to just be, being critical and tearing down people's paths.
Right.
Where, yeah. Which I think, going back on Terry Gilliam and his other movies, The Zero Theorem, I think is another movie that also, which, by the way, just to have it on record, I like Terry's stuff more after he left Monty Python. I think the further... The Zero Theorem's maybe his most recent movie. It's one of his most recent movies.
2013, so remember that.
But I was gonna say the further he gets from Monty Python, maybe the better he gets even, but I don't think that's true. But Brazil and Zero Theorem are my two favorite of his, but I think that Zero Theorem also attempts to answer this question, and it does so creatively, and it does so thoughtfully, and I'll just say that, and I think it gives a much more satisfying answer.
But I guess, if we want to think about, and I'm definitely not like the authority to speak on this, but that as far as I understand it, the Monty Python kind of universe is built off of bits and like group skits and like having these kind of same band of actors and like
no, definitely.
so the idea of it being not a cohesive kind of solid take, and there being kind of jarring transitions where it kind of might not. And to be fair, you have these jarring transitions, but many of them wrapped back around. And so there was at least that kind of funny moment where you're like, oh, okay, like we saw the old Britishman in the building, and like now we've kind of come back, and the liver donor writing, like everything started to connect.
No, you're right.
And it did come back that heaven was that restaurant, and like
which is why I wanted to rescind earlier.
Right.
Yeah,
but
my statement about it not being. I do think it becomes unified in the end.
Yeah, and I think that like it's one of those things that I have to like remind myself that this doesn't mean I have to like it, but that the format is intentional because of this group of people that were making these movies. It is not just one of those guys going off and directing a normal movie,
right,
with the same kind of setup or with a different setup.
Right.
It's
built
meant
into what
to
it
be
is.
this kind of like skit, whatever. So to take that like into account in anything, I think honestly my like final just line about it was like, I like the concept. I think that, on paper, each satire is like pretty good. I thought that they were like, conceptually pretty funny, but my like actual in-person live reaction or enjoyment of it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It just didn't really work for me as I was watching it, but it's one of those things that like, I think upon reflecting on it and talking about, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. It lands. I understand. Again, there was something that got lost in translation for me from the what's written to be, this is what this scene is supposed to be, this is what this scene is supposed to be, to what actually came out and hit me from the TV. There's like a gap for me there. Where I didn't necessarily love watching it, but I like thinking about it, which has happened to me before with movies for different reasons, but, like, I don't think I would watch it again.
Yeah, it's not like a pretty movie. No. The scene where it follows the waiter to his parents' house or whatever, that was pretty. But, for the most part, the cinematography was actually kind of ugly.
I wouldn't say that, like, that was something I was really expecting, though.
Well, no, again, that just comes with, like, the nature of what it is, I think. But, yeah, I don't know if there was a point to that.
Do you have a final thought?
I thought it was okay. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite movie, but it wasn't the worst movie I've seen. It was definitely, you could tell that the people making the movie were talented and intelligent and thoughtful. But yeah, I think something just about how it, how their thoughts with this one manifested, just didn't translate, at least for us. But obviously, yeah, it has its fans. It still, I think, is better than most movies.
Sure.
I give it the worth watching stamp.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think, definitely it's on the bucket list, but I don't know how much enjoyment I would get really, if any, out of watching it again, because I think, like, we saw what it was saying, and we absorbed it, and we think about it now, and we talk about it, and, like, it did what it needed to do, and there's nothing necessarily about the format that it was presented to me in that I would need again.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think with Holy Grail, for example, it had much less of a point, I think. And so that the fun of the movie is literally watching it, and
it's just
and
more enjoyable
having
of an
that.
experience.
Yeah, exactly. I think that there was enough of the weirdness or the comedy in Meaning of Life enough of it was uncomfortable enough for me to just kind of be like, okay, I watched it and I don't really need to do it again.
Yeah.
It
is.
I got it.
I'll summarize it as it's a reminder.
Goose is in a funny position.
All right, let's see. It's this looks much better. I should have had it zoomed in the whole time. Yeah, I think it looks much better. But it's a reminder of how people are. How should I say this? It's a reminder of how people cause problems with their ignorant beliefs that they hold on to for comfort in the face of absurdity. That is occasionally cringe-inducing, but will sometimes give you a laugh and is definitely creative. But overall, yeah, just uncomfortable. So, yeah, again, it has, like, a message that I like, on some levels, agree with, but just, yeah, the presentation just came off, for me, kind of disrespectful, and, yeah, just it was an unpleasant viewing experience.
I think, honestly, you could even summarize it as it's a movie whose message I could just tell you, and then you wouldn't have to watch it. Like, I don't know if that's hard. I'm not, like, trying to be harsh with that, but that I could say, you know, it satirizes like, these different ways of living, and here's what those are, and here's how it makes fun of them. And then, you know, unless you just, like, had to see it, like, I don't feel like if somebody just told me everything that happened and every sort of point that was made, I don't know what else I would be getting from watch. Like, and I don't know if, again, coming from, you know, that didn't actually happen to me, so who knows, but, like, that the actual viewing of it, apart from being like, oh, that's what they did to do this thing that I don't know. I like that there wasn't something about the fact that it is in a film format that brought really all that much else. No, I don't know if that's too harsh.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think that there's enough creativity here in the way that they give the message. Like, yeah, you could easily, maybe not easily. We're a primed audience, I think.
Yeah.
With, but you could absorb the message otherwise, which again, like, my viewing experience was not very pleasant. There were moments I enjoyed myself, but overall I was just uncomfortable. But regardless, I think that the way that they say what they're trying to say is weird enough and creative enough and unique enough that it's still worth watching, and it's enough of a cultural artifact, you know, that I think it is worth at least your first view. Your second view, you know, you probably have to be a big fan. Yeah,
that's up to you. But get another Close up. Focus.
I do like how the cover is shiny.
Oh, come on. Get in on that. Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Cool.
This has been Monty Python, The Meaning of Life. Goodbye.
42.
Oh, did you give it a rating on Letterboxd?
3 stars
Oh, okay.
was my rating.
Nice. Goodbye and good night.
Bye.